the Dark Times channel. Please go ahead and hit that like button. Please share and subscribe. As you all know, certain channels do not get promoted as many as others, so definitely go ahead and hit that like button. And if you enjoy the content and you've been coming to this channel so far, please go ahead and subscribe. So let's go ahead and dive right in. This story right here is coming out of Florida, definitely to no surprise. And it's a story about a 10-year-old black boy in Florida who's facing charges for allegedly groping his counselor. And so before I chime in, of course, I'm going to go ahead and read some of the details of the story. So 10-year-old Florida student facing charges for allegedly groping their counselor. A Florida school counselor is pressing charges against a 10-year-old boy she claims groped her under the guise of a hug, reports said on Wednesday. The fourth grader was suspended from the Holy Hill School for 10 days and now faces a misdemeanor and battery charge. I don't care if he grabbed her boobs and twisted her nipples and said, "Tokyo, come in." It does not warrant a misdemeanor battery charge. But let me not get ahead of myself. I'm gonna go ahead and read the rest of the story. It says the health counselor claims she was visiting the boy's classroom on October 24th to talk to his teacher when the child approached her for an embrace. And take note on how she worded it. She didn't put in the report that it was a hug. She put in embrace. Using the word embrace, when you're using that word, that's a word that's reserved for a romantic setting. Or at the very least, an embrace is going to be reserved for two adults. So she's already wording it in a way that, is setting herself up to be believed. But let me go ahead and continue. She claims she turned sideways to give a side hug when the boy put one arm around her shoulder and cupped her left breast in a disrespectful way with the other. The letter provided to the outlet by the child's attorney states. It says the counselor had to forcibly remove his hand. Pay attention to the wording. Again, pay attention to the wording. It says the identity of the counselor is being withheld because she invoked Marsy's Law, a Florida statute that allows alleged crime victims to remain anonymous. It says police were called to the school after the incident and the boy was reprimanded by school officials. He was suspended for 10 days and allowed to return on Tuesday. His family claims the allegations are false and school officials suspended the child without properly investigating the claims. So according to the family, there wasn't even an improper investigation, which means more than likely the 10-year-old was not even questioned thoroughly, or he was not questioned properly with his parents or his representation there. That's all that means. It goes on to say the boy's teacher was in the room during the alleged incident, but did not see the interaction. The police report and the suspension letter state there was no witnesses, just her word against his, says Lakeisha Hollins, the boy's grandmother and legal guardian, told USA Today. And so when I first saw this story, I didn't even have to ask what the race was. And sure enough, I read down to the bottom and I saw Lakeisha Hollins, and you already know what time it is. And so it goes on to say the boy's grandmother, Lakeisha Hollins, theorizes that the counselor may have turned to look to another student during the embrace, causing the awkward touch. My grandson said with the hug, she did grab his hand and hold his hand up, and he didn't really know why she did it, she told USA Today. He said she let his hand go and then he began to talk to the other students. And so that right there tells you this young boy didn't think anything of it. He went in to get a hug. Teacher probably turned awkwardly, like the grandmother said. Hand may have slipped or moved or whatever, touched her breast. And that was it. He went back to his seat and started talking to the other kids. And the teacher went on to talk to the rest of the class. So if there was any validity or truth to this story, truth be told, that teacher or counselor would have reacted right then and there. If she really thought that he was trying to cop a feel and she had his best interest in mind, she would have used that as a teachable moment. Like I said, she would have pulled him off to the side along with the teacher, called his mother or parents or whomever, and they would have had a discussion, and it would have been a teachable moment in the discussion. Move on. We all know what this is, and we all know what this was. This counselor saw an opportunity to punish a young black boy for maybe touching her perfect white titties and she all but screams, you know what? By calling in the authorities, that's exactly what it is. You're going to call the authorities on a 10-year-old child? And like I said, let's play devil's advocate. Let's flip it around. Let's say he purposely did what she said he did. As a counselor on that school, if a 10-year-old boy purposely did that, that's the last thing you need to do is call the authorities on him. There could be something going on at home. If he's acting out in that manner that you say he did, there needs to be a deeper conversation, and we need to get to the root cause of this. But like I said, these counselors and these teachers in these schools do not have your children's best interest in mind. So this is a good teachable moment right here. We're not living in the 1960s, obviously, but conversations need to be had. If you have black boys or young black children of any gender, these are conversations that need to be had. When your children or your grandchildren or whoever are out in the dominant society, or they're at school, or different situations where they're going to be surrounded by people within the dominant society that may or may not have their best interest in mind, it's going to be very crucial that they understand that a different set of rules are always going to apply to them. And one of those set rules is that when it comes to a he said, she said, that they're never going to get the benefit of the doubt. And so it's going to be best to understand that at the very least, the best thing that they can do is just keep their hands to themselves, not going around asking for hugs, especially from people that don't look like them. That's just a safe bet. Even if you tell your child what's up and that child does not listen to you, at the very least, they have a point of reference where they can go back in their minds and say, yes, my mother and my father told me about this, and that's worth more than gold. And this story kind of reminds me of another story that happened in New York a few years back. I'm pretty sure y'all remember this story. I'm gonna go ahead and let the video play.
As Teresa Klein, now known as Corner Store Caroline on the internet, loudly accused a 9-year-old boy of grabbing her behind. In what has since become a viral video on social media, Klein tells a 911 dispatcher she needs police immediately, prompting gut-wrenching cries from the boy and his younger sister. The Bodega Friday and watch the surveillance video from inside the store with us.
After this, my little dance.
The footage clearly shows the boy's hands in plain sight, and it was his book bag that grazed her.
I was wrong. Young man, I don't know your name, but I'm sorry.
So like I said, this story was a story from a few years back. Luckily for the family, they had everything on tape. She was able to retract her story and no charges were filed. But if it hadn't been on tape, it would have been a whole he said, she said. So you definitely need to be on high alert, and you need to be active in your children's school. Find out who their teachers are, find out who their counselors are. And definitely, some of you parents, don't skin and grin when you go in there, thinking that you're going to try to ingratiate yourself with some of these teachers and some of these institutions. You want to go into those meetings, hold your head high, and let them know that you mean business when it comes to your child. So that's something you definitely want to be mindful of when you're representing your children. You're a representation of your child, and your child is a representation of you at all times, for better or worse. So I think that's going to be a good spot to end. And as usual, peace and chaos.